thanks for joining us. It's always a good thing when we can get a group of committed folks all talking around how they can improve performance on their mission, return on mission. So that's what we're all about. I'm again Mariano. I'm in charge of helping clients leverage this type of strategy. And so what I'd like to do today is just very briefly give you an overview of what we do, so you have an understanding of what is the technology context in which GrowUp has been able to work. Smaller Labs has been doing this for about 9 years. This is all we do. We provide a social collaboration platform and some services around helping you engage, connect, mobilize, collaborate with your key supporters. Obviously looking for new ways to do this in a way that's integrated with your website, in a way that's fully supported from the product and from the strategy perspective, but as well integrated with your existing tools. So you already have an investment in a CRM and a CMS and certain other fundraising tools. By creating a front end to things and leveraging those existing tools with a community type interface, you're able to leverage existing technologies already. The features that we use to do that are quite a few of them inside the platform. It's an enterprise level tool, but it's also customizable, so it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. So it's whatever it is that you need to drive those purpose-based actions and interactions. That's what we provide our clients. We're going to see what GrowUp is using today in terms of the features and functions, and we're also going to talk a little bit about the future state of the site. It's going through a major evolution literally as we speak. So we'll talk a little bit about the things we're going to put in place that they don't have today. So right now, I'm turning back to Jeremy for a very quick poll that's going to help actually inform a little bit about what I'm going to say in terms of trying to find out a little bit about how you guys fundraise.
Yeah, thanks, Mariano. And as you mentioned, we're going to launch a quick poll question. I'll go ahead and do that now. But I think it helps the speakers to understand really the composition of our audience. So the question we're asking today is, what's the primary fundraising strategy for your organization? So several options here: peer-to-peer fundraising, personal fundraising, grassroots or do-it-yourself fundraising, major gifts, large donors, and then other. So I'll give you a couple minutes to complete this poll question, and then we'll show you the results.
Fantastic. So looks like we've got quite a bit of the folks in the first three categories, and then about a quarter in the bottom. So it'll be interesting because what we're going to show today relates to quite a bit of the first few three that we have there. So hopefully it'll be a good, will be some good takeaways for everybody.
Perfect. And back to the slide deck.
All right. So what I'm going to do right now is give everybody a quick background on GrowUp so that we understand exactly how they came to us, what their existing needs were at the time, and then what we put in place in terms of technology. Once I'm done explaining that, the actual framework of the community, we'll turn it over to Julie and Rachel. So the first thing is, when GrowUp came to us, they had a stated need of, trying to connect these young global leaders on a central platform so they could have basically a collaboration hub where resources and things would be centralized. So all of these things were put into the GrowUp Club's site, which is a subdomain of the main domain, growup.org, and we're going to show this today. And this has extended collaboration for the members. It has helped in recruiting. It has helped in a variety of ways. I'm not going to steal their thunder because there's some very interesting results around this. But the technology doesn't just sort of exist out there on its own. It is directly tied into the systems that they use for online fundraising and marketing and constituent relationship management. In their case, the integration that we've achieved is fairly deep, and some of this is actually a work in process. So some of these things are fully implemented, somewhat implemented in terms of the initial needs we found, and some of the things we're actually going to start doing at a whole other level today. So just for beginners, this platform is integrated from an authentication and sign-in perspective, so we have single sign-on turned on. We also have data synchronization, which allows us to pull data from the community profiles into the constituent relationship management system. This is a data mining strategy. From there, we have a variety of other things that we're going to talk about today by using some examples. But suffice it to say that a lot of the experience that people have on the community and a lot of the things that they do, so what they provide us in terms of information and the actions they take in the community, so behavioral data, all of that influences what they see, what content we can push to them, how do we personalize the experience, how we allow or disallow access to certain things, how we recognize them in the community, and then how do we onboard them so that we can put them in the right place, like the number 5 there, auto membership. And then finally, the holy grail, which is why we're probably all here, is how does this affect fundraising? How does this affect the bottom line? How can we take people from a relatively passive type of status to a very active leading participant that is out there helping us, giving their time, giving their money, participating, advocating on our behalf, etc. So with that, I'll turn it over to the superstars, the main course. This is Julie Willig and Rachel Wistuff from the United Nations Girl Up Clubs. I'll turn it over to them, and we're basically gonna do a combination of some information about their program, then a site tour, and then some specific results.
Thanks so much, Mariana. We're so happy to be here. I'd like to start, for those of you who aren't familiar with Girl Up, talking a bit about our mission. Girl Up is a campaign of the United Nations Foundation, and we strive to empower girls to ensure that all girls, no matter where they live in life, are able to reach their full potential. So specifically, we help to fund UN programs currently in 4 countries, Malawi, Liberia, Ethiopia, and Guatemala. But to do this, we really look to girls as the solution. So we want to make sure girls have the resources and tools in the U.S. and around the world to be able to fundraise for these UN programs and to be able to take advocacy actions to support large-scale global policy priorities focused on girls. So within that, we break it down into 5 pillars. Making sure that girls are educated, that they're healthy, that they're safe and free from violence, that they're counted, and that they're empowered as leaders. So that's kind of the big overview of Girl Up.
Go ahead. Yeah, thank you, Mariana. And so our campaign is just over 4 years old. We launched in 2010, so in a lot of ways still very much growing, but have an exciting network behind us, a supporter base that is, no surprise, with a teen audience, primarily on social. So some of our numbers that we highlight there, you'll see our social media presence, a robust email list, but what we're really honing in on today and focusing on is what Rachel and I consider our grassroots champions and those global leaders that Rachel mentioned. They're part of a network of 300 plus clubs and campus groups. We require our student leaders to re-register with us every year, so naturally there's some churn. We've had in our 4 years about 700 clubs register with us to date, but typically around 350 are active each school year with us. And then what that equates to is right now just over 3,000, about 3,500 members in the community. So this is really targeted at those student leaders, at those young leaders who are leading clubs and campus groups for us.
Yep. And we're thrilled that we have a community for those 3,500 Girl Up Club leaders and campus leaders to really make them feel special and to allow them to discover tools and resources that will then set them on the path to taking action. So when we cultivate Girl Up Clubs and when we empower Girl Up Clubs, we ask them to take action, but we give them a lot of freedom and personalization in how they want to go about doing that. So this is how we break it down usually. We ask clubs to educate their communities, to serve as advocates, whether that is locally or statewide or on a congressional level. We ask them to serve and to give back when they can, and we also are we do prioritize fundraising, and what we found from our clubs and campus programs is that these girls, they don't just want to give a $5 donation. For one, not all of them have credit cards to give online $5 donations, but they really like putting on events, and they like bringing together their peers to showcase the work of Girl Up and to get people excited and to mobilize towards fundraising. So that excitement and their willingness to put on these events has really driven our fundraising strategy to date.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Girl Up in our clubs look at peer-to-peer fundraising in a bit of a different way, because as you'll see in that diagram, it's just one piece of a larger puzzle. And to really engage our student and youth audience, those pieces fit together. So our needs were bigger than just a strict peer-to-peer fundraising platform that just allows for those transactional relationships, but as you'll see, a community that fosters and supports what Rachel mentioned with education and advocacy and building that sense of community as well. Go ahead, Mariano. So the commitment pyramid, we at Girl Up often call it the commitment curve, but is something very similar to what Small World Labs promotes as well. And so as we work together, it's exciting to see how our two theories on engaging supporters really overlap, and how the community itself, the platform, helps to foster that development of our supporters. Because at the end of the day, Rachel and I are focused on, like we said, those leaders who are leading and are owning our movement. So you'll see them there at the top of the pyramid, but as a philosophy and strategy, we're really looking to bring our supporters into the fold. Oftentimes it's by first seeing us on social media. We do a lot of school presentations and other types of presentations, so sometimes that's a supporter's first interaction with the campaign, and then our job is to continue to bring them up. So for us, we'll talk about later, the data mining, the finding out what issues are of interest to people, the understanding what age bracket, what type of school they're coming from, all that type of information is really important to us to make sure that we're communicating and engaging in our audience with the right language, with the right content. And so that type of information and that work in the community is key to that really holistic and engaging experience for our club leaders. So as you'll see, we really have optimized our community in particular for our top of the pyramid. So we've created the community to engage the best of our best supporters, which are primarily our club leaders and campus leaders. We also have a board of teen advisors. And so it's really been great to have now one database, one platform for all that messaging and engagement of our top supporters.
And I will make a brief comment that we're unique in that not all nonprofits or fundraising organizations target teenage girls. So we really look to the community as an interactive place, as a place where we can experiment to see what messaging resonates the most. And what we found is email open rates are not the same amongst the younger demographic as they are perhaps older demographics, and so we really turn to striking images, to club news blasts, to you know, specific short blog posts, things that'll stick with teenage girls. And so in that way, we're again very appreciative of the community to allow us to hone what works and what doesn't, and to allow them to contribute as well. And you'll get a bigger picture of how the club leaders and campus leaders are contributing when we walk through the community.
Fantastic. So we'll do that right now. We're going to do a little site tour. I will pause my screen momentarily while I pull up the Girl Up Club site.
Excellent. Thanks, Mariana.
And in a second, you will see that come up. And let me know, Julie and Rachel, when you see that on your screen so that I know everybody else is seeing it.
Yep, we got it.
All right, so we've got some pages lined up that you guys can explain to everybody present.
Perfect, sure. So our initial landing page of the community, and if you're not already logged in, this is where your light box would be popping up to indicate that you should log in here with us. Of course, we put a map front and center because we want to demonstrate our growing movement, because the questions that we always get are, where do your clubs exist, and is there one in my local community? And girls want to know that they're part of this growing movement, that they're leaders of this movement. So having that and being able to demonstrate that in a very visual way has been important to us. And then, yeah, Mariana, if you slide down just a little bit, you'll see the 4 priorities that Rachel already mentioned there, so we're able to share a bit about those. But most importantly is we provide an avenue for people to enter the community if they're not already a member with us. So those are through 3 of our key programs, and we'll be talking about clubs and campus the most. So when a user comes onto the community, we essentially have, together with Small World Labs, optimized a track for them. So they go through a very specific registration based on what they click, what path they choose, that allows us to collect the appropriate information, and then allows us, through their dedicated specific registration, to get appropriate information once they're logged into the community.
Okay, so this is our My Girl Up page. This is the first page that the user is directed to after logging in. And there's a couple of unique features on this page. For one, you'll notice on the upper right-hand corner there is a section that says My Coalition Lead. And essentially, the normal user would only have one of those images appear based on the region or the city that they selected upon registering. And this is customized so that when the user comes into the site, they know immediately who they can ask questions towards. All of those are either teen advisors or experienced club leaders. And this allows Julie and I to kind of share some of the responsibilities ask and answer each other's questions, which cuts down a lot on our email inbox, and it gets the community to be more participatory, and more ideas are shared that way.
Absolutely, and identifying, training, and then making them accessible, those high-impact supporters, actually being able to grow the program itself, which has directly contributed to our increased fundraising. Through that, the registration that we mentioned, optimizing that registration, and then have these tiers has allowed us to continue to grow the club program, which then has brought in those additional dollars. We've also, when we created this My Girl Up, knowing that this was the first place once supporters came and logged in, this was the first thing they saw, we took a keen effort to make it as Facebook-esque as possible. So with the favorites bar, with their groups on the left-hand side, with their chats and connections, we really optimized the community so it looked like a platform where our supporters were already on all the time.
Yeah, we've talked about it before. Again, the younger, and I still consider myself part of the younger generation, they don't have patience for ugly-looking websites, and they don't have patience for websites that don't feel intuitive. So as much as possible, replicating things they already know, and making content really customized and including daily and weekly updates. So the announcements panel on the right-hand side, along with the Girl Up News and that main block at the top about International Day of the Girl, all of those we try to change up on a weekly or daily basis, because we know that if you don't change them, girls will forget to come to this site and they won't make it part of their daily routine. So as much as possible, really trying to provide new and exciting content for them.
And we know, of course, girls do and will continue to use other social platforms to connect. And so we made it a priority to make sure that certain reminders, certain information, certain content, they would have to actually come in and log in to fully complete their requirements as a club and to maximize their experience.
And I guess one of the final things I'll point out on this page is the club leaderboard on the right-hand side. That is something that Small World Labs put together for us, and that was very crucial to Girl Up, because rather than an individual user experience, we also wanted this to be a club experience. And so we asked the club leaderboard to collate points based on actions taken in the community as well as offline actions. And together, this leaderboard determines which clubs at the end of the year receive certain incentives and prizes. So again, with this age demographic, we found success in offering year-end prizes, whether that's a club party, whether it's gift cards or girl-up swag items. We found that it really inspires the girls and motivates them, a little friendly competition, if you will, that wouldn't existed if this was just based on a singular user experience.
Yeah, and back to our comprehensive approach with our 4 priorities of fundraising, education, advocacy, and service. The club leaderboard and Small World Labs point-based system allows us to go beyond just a typical fundraising leaderboard and really emphasize and prioritize those other actions that at the end of the day make our supporters more loyal to us and more engaged as well. So even though it doesn't directly only showcase fundraising, those type of tactics have increased our fundraising as well.
And we found with our supporter base, if you don't pigeonhole them into fundraising, and you can move on, Mariano, I'm just going to keep speaking through to the next slide. If you don't insist that they fundraise, but rather put it out there as an option, we found that more clubs are actually fundraising than ever before because they feel like they have a menu of options to choose from, and because they know that there are other means of empowering girls beyond just raising money, it actually inspires them to go the extra mile, if that makes any sense.
So just a brief update of the profile, and we've begun to add information when people register and update their profile that then syncs, which Mariana already mentioned, and we're in conversations right now with Small World Labs to start to collect even more of that information. So we'll be looking at updating our registration and some of that information. So things that we might not have had information on our constituents when they originally joined the campaign, like gender or graduation year or date of birth. It's now a second opportunity to collect that in the community. And we also then can associate the individual constituent and supporter with their specific club and position and activity level with us.
Yeah, having that retention and making sure your supporters remain with you, whether they're transitioning from middle school to high school or high school to college, is infinitely easier by having this initial data. And we can recognize girls when they've graduated high school and you know, offer them thanks for what they've done so far, and then making sure that then they have another track or another outlet to bring girl up with them to their college campus. We always want to make sure we're anticipating their next step and allowing them to still participate in Girl Up's leadership activities.
Absolutely. So two of the things we've discussed adding to collect more information on is because we cover multiple pillars and issue areas, we're not a single issue-based campaign. We want to know what issues are of most importance to the girls, and then of our 4 key action pillars, advocacy, awareness, education, and fundraising, finding out how they would rank those personally so that we can start to tailor suggested activities based on what they're interested in. I think we're good there, Mariano.
So another slide we wanted to quickly show you is the activity calendar that we have in the community. Back in the day, believe it or not, it used to be Julie and I trying to come up with various UN holidays to add to this calendar, but since then the girls have really taken over, and everything you see on this calendar is girl-made at this point. And this just allows supporters to recognize each other's events. It keeps us up to date on events that we should be paying attention towards. So if we want to highlight a specific club on social media, we'll know which day they're having a fundraiser. Additionally, we can better anticipate when they need flyers, or we can also send them reminders to fill out their reports after the event. So a big thing for us is making sure that supporters actually report back. We know they're taking action, but we feel like perhaps we only know a third of all actions taken this, currently. So this system, with both posting their activities ahead of time and reporting afterwards, really allows us to get accurate data and information for our yearly reporting.
Yeah, absolutely. And something working with students, no big surprise, most of their actions and activities are offline, and at the end of the day, for our reporting of programs, for demonstrating our impact and engagement, getting that information is so crucial. And prior to our are beginning to use the community, that was done through email reports, through PDF, and through things that took up a whole lot of our bandwidth and didn't allow for us to focus on other priorities. So having that system in place to show what's upcoming as well as what's happened in an automatized way has been pivotal for our ability to grow the program.
Personally, I'm just always really excited to see people post here because I think the average girl knows that she can host a bake sale and she knows that she can do, you know, a change jar in the local business. But there's so many creative ideas out there, and this is just one format and one place where another girl can recognize and feel motivated by her peer and then adapt that activity to and fundraiser to suit her community. So if you want to click to chat, Mariano, thank you. Chat, again, it's crucial that these girls are able to interact and connect with each other. And one of the biggest requests that come to Girl Up is how can our club connect with girls in developing countries, or how can our club connect with a club in another part of the world? And we always direct them to this chat because it's simple, it's easy to use, you just reply to whatever question might arise. And again, I mentioned it before, but it really, really cuts down in the amount of emails Julie and I have to respond to. It allows girls and young youth leaders to respond to each other, and we've really seen it taken off. Anything to add, Julie?
Absolutely, yeah, and we mentioned earlier that we have a board of 20 teen advisors. These girls serve a year-long commitment with us, receive some great opportunities, but also have some specific expectations as well. And so those 20 leaders really are ambassadors in the community itself. And so we see them before Rachel and I can even get to questions, responding. And again, so to bandwidth and to expansion, that's been pivotal. And at the end of the day, it's the girls themselves who can best ask or best answer, how do I get club members to show up to meetings, or what's the best event to do this time of year. So having that two-way communication and not just one way up to us has been instrumental.
So the club pages are really our pride and joy in the community. You'll notice right away the group points on the upper left-hand corner, and that's what we were talking about that factors into the club leaderboard on the main MyGirlUp page. And really these group points are how we know how active a club is. So whether they are uploading photos or videos or files, which are all options under that tool sidebar, or they're customizing their page, all of that contributes to the group points. And you'll see that Providence Day is an incredibly active club. They actually just started this year. And what we've noticed is that clubs that have started since we have optimized this platform are way more active. They contribute way more information. They're willing to share more photos and more reports simply because it's so easy. All of it is a one-stop shop on this club page. And so reports, I don't know if that's the next tab that you have open. Yeah, excellent. This is where a club will go to submit the kickoff report, which is what we ask them to do when they initially start a club. So listing their advisor's name, number of club members, perhaps goals for the year, so we can, again, try to customize what content they're getting based on what they're most interested in, fundraising, advocacy. And then we'll have them submit activity reports after every fundraiser, after every film screening, large-scale event. And then finally, we ask them to do 2 semester reports a year. So it's a lot of reporting, but it really, really helps us out. And because they're in school, most of them are in school and they recognize how reporting works. They all have report cards. It's, again, really intuitive for them to just fill out this basic form and hit submit.
And so quick now in the community, and for them to see the instant gratification of watching their points grow, and then we've set it up so that the reports based on offline actions, if they do a specific level in offline action, and once we verify the activity, then we're able to assign bonus points to the club. And so it's really driven engagement since we've begun implementing this less than a year ago.
And I will say one unique feature with the activity report is it allows clubs to upload documents. So either they can share with us flyers they've made, or what we especially like to see are Excel documents with names and email addresses of club members and supporters they've collected. So that's great, because then once they upload that, we add it to our email database, and we have 20, 25 new people to message out when Girl Up does have advocacy email campaigns or fundraising email campaigns.
Mm-hmm. And as our club program has grown, Mariano showed that initial landing page with a club's goals and their pictures, their upcoming events, and their reports. The tab just right before Mariana, yeah. So this also allows us, while Rachel and I would love to be able to remember and know every club's first name of their club leader and what they're doing, now that our program's growing, we can't always offer that type of immediate personalization, but we can go to a club page, like Rachel said, see their activity level based on their points, their photos, and then if you scroll all the way down, Mariano, their upcoming events of what they've added to the calendar, and then those past activities that they've done are those reports they've submitted. So this is our best snapshot of what a club has done.
In the way that other organizations cultivate high-level donors, we cultivate our clubs, because we know that every girl within a club has the potential to raise hundreds, thousands of dollars a year. So really devoting as much attention as possible to their needs is what the community is all about.
Mm-hmm. Mariano, yeah, if you could pull up, I think there's potentially one last screenshot there.
Or was that the activity report?
That was just a file gallery shot that I showed everybody.
Oh.
No, we're ready to show some of the results. I'm going to switch over to PowerPoint. Give me one quick second, and I will continue to share my screen and return to some of the results that you guys have obtained.
Great, great. So to coincide with the community, we've built out this regional structure. It's like the chicken or the egg. I don't know if one came before the other, but they both are very much mutually dependent on one another. So at the top you have Julie and I, who really do all the grassroots work under Girl Up. And the community allows us to then empower regional leaders. So this structure, we have about 5 current regional leaders, the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic, the South, the Southwest. And from there, those specific leaders are the touch point, are the point of contact for club and campus leaders. So you have this huge structure of support, and within this allows all girls to get the personalized attention that they deserve. It allows them to get quick responses to all their questions. And it really filters down to members, and then from those members, every single one of those members has the ability to take action in the community. So while we do have contact most often with the leaders, the members in the community can be just as participatory. And they can upload those photos. They can, based on their specific position within a club, if they're the historian, they can do the reporting. If they're more interested in social media, they can, again, post videos and tweet about things. So all of this, where every single person can in some way give back and contribute, has led to an increase of actions in the community, an increase in activities outside of the online platform, and then overall a huge increase in fundraising since we've started the campaign in 2010.
Go ahead, next slide.
Great. So alongside of this, the only way we could have increased our fundraising as much as we have is through an increase of Girl Up clubs. So what you'll see here is that we've had a huge growth in the number of clubs since 2011. So we actually, though we started in 2010 as a campaign, the club structure didn't begin to 2011. And that was with a very small piloted number of clubs. And at the time, we really had to rely on our organizational partners, like National Coalition of Girls Schools, to get those clubs started. But with the online platform and the ability to register seamlessly, we've had a lot of organic growth in clubs. And again, topping, at the end of last school year, we topped almost 700, and it's since surpassed that in terms of the numbers of clubs registered. So Some highlights to point out from last year, we had 431 clubs registered with us. 80% of those were new. And among those, we had about a 75% active rate. So what that means is those were clubs that were taking action in the community. They were reporting. They were opening all of our email blasts. We could tell they were paying attention and then giving back. And then again, within each club, there's an average of about 21 members per club. So that's a lot of people who are aware of Grow Up and who know how to take action on our behalf. You can go to the next slide, Mariana. Oh, go one back. I think we missed members real quick. Thank you. So again, within the clubs, you have an increase in members. It used to be that only the Grow Up club leader would be active in the community, but now because members can join their club page and become administrators of their club page as well, we've seen that membership skyrocket. So it looks like since mid-October, because that graph obviously goes off the charts there, since the fall of 2014, we're at about 3,500 members, and you'll see on the community it now says 3,900. So we've had huge, huge spikes since we've made the community more accessible, more customized. Every improvement we've made has resulted in a significantly larger number of members.
Which is important to us in our own business plan and strategy, not only for just the growth itself and contributing to our own constituency goals, but then of course the engagement of our top tier of supporters. So also looking at the quality of those constituents. We know that those in the community are our top constituents. So directly contributing to two of our key goals. Go ahead, Mariano. So then highlighting some of those other results. Online engagement, we're able to see how many actions are taken in the community, like Rachel mentioned, posting photos, reports they've submitted, anything that they've done in the community. So you see on a month-by-month basis how that's continued to increase. And some things, just of course working in the academic year, we of course expect it to flatline a bit during holidays where students are not in school, and then in the summer months as well. But you'll see, Rachel mentioned at first we were really just targeting club leaders, so you see the first 6 to 8 months really just kind of a very small, slow, steady growth. And then beginning of the school year, once we had launched the community, worked hard over the summer and really optimized it to engage all members. And with the beginning of the school year, the time when we typically pull in the most new clubs, and with our key moment of the year is International Day of the Girl on October 11th. So we had just a flurry of activity in the community. So that's where you see the first spike. And then you see a second spike there, a really exciting moment where we had worked on a project with Small World Labs for about a month and a half, 2 months to optimize and refresh the community. The great thing is that we can continue to get feedback, learn what features girls like, what layouts they respond to. So we did a project to optimize the community, and in February and March of this past year saw just an incredible spike. We also did a whole lot of promotion with our girls and the programs about the community, and to revisit, to go see some of those features like points that we added. And then so we flatlined for a bit and, in the summer, like we mentioned, as we'd expect, and we are just so excited, and data still rolling in with the increased engagement with this past school year. So September we essentially doubled, tripled our actions. For the first time we're over 10,000 actions. It was actually over 12,000 actions for September, and October was the same. So we need to update this graph and this statistic. But again, having all members of the community engaged and having a continually growing program because of the seamless registration has contributed to that spike. And then so, Mariana, you can go to the next slide. So what does that actually mean? The online engagement in the community is great, but at the end of the day, we want that to translate into offline actions, advocacy actions, fundraising events, etc. So you can see how our reported activities have continually grown. And we already mentioned this, but that feedback loop, knowing what girls are doing offline is sometimes really tough, and mentioning why it's important for them to report back and to submit those reports. So you see in our first year, 2011 to 2012, that's when they were reporting via email and PDFs, and we certainly weren't able to tell the full story of what our program was doing. And then matriculated that into the community last in the 2012-2013 school year, and then we're better able to understand and know what clubs we're doing offline. And then this past school year, again, we know the 425 doesn't encompass quite everything. It's a work in progress to make sure those reports are submitted, but for the first time, really feeling like we're getting that continual communication and report back from the girls. And then, so what does that mean with fundraising? Just our last thing to report here is seeing the impact in funds raised. That first year, just barely over $20,000 brought in from our club network, which was about 100 clubs at that time, too. And this is actually even more now that we've had more checks submitted. And as you can imagine, at the end of the school year, girls sometimes save up and send in their fundraising all together. So creeping more towards $80,000 that was brought in from our club fundraising this past year. And of course, this is just one pipeline, one avenue of fundraising that Girl Up does, but with our top supporter base, we know this is a critical and instrumental part of our fundraising.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Julie and Rachel. Fantastic information you've shared today. What I'll do right now before we wrap it up and we come back with questions for you guys is I'd like to share, with everybody on the call, as probably some of you have noticed, we took a little bit of a past state, current state, and then now I'd like to go into some future state information about this particular site because, I think we've all caught on to the fact that this requires ongoing work. It's something that, here internally we call, feeding and weeding this community, and that also involves some continual refreshing and addition of new tools and integration testing. So I'll talk a little bit about that just to kind of give you a sense of where this community is going next year so everybody can check in on it and see how these things evolve. The first thing is social fundraising. So we've rolled out an integration with a team fundraising platform the United Nations Foundation uses. And so part of what we're going to do is we're going to extend the registration experience for their personal fundraising pages into the community. What this is going to allow is for sort of a more intuitive registration interface, so less of the transactional, which we heard today, and a little bit more about the relationship building. So what that entails is bringing that form into the community. You go through the registration page, basically wrapped in a community interface, and you can start seeing potentially marketing messages, potentially recommendations based on what you're registering for, already taking some of that profile information that's coming in and personalizing the event, fundraising, or the advocacy action experience for you. Another thing that we're going to probably do with them as they redesign their site, which is something we should mention, early next year their entire girlup.org site will relaunch with a new refresh design, so that it inherently means that the community needs to adopt some of that look and feel, if not all of it. And so we're going to take advantage of that redesign and reconfiguration to introduce some of these advanced configurations that allow for some of the things you see listed here. The gamification, the badges, asking different questions of different people at different times of the year. Like they said, they want to keep track of certain people. So, when we know the time is right, we'll put another block of profile questions in front of folks that are graduating from high school, and that'll appear selectively only to those folks. A lot of leaderboards and stuff. Here's an example that we've talked about with them that comes from another organization, but just to give everybody a sense of, this has got an Olympic motif, gold medal, silver medal, bronze medal, and then a list of the top 10. In this particular case, these are advocacy actions. These can be tied into fundraising by pulling in team fundraising totals, for example. So there's many different permutations of this concept. And there's ways to bring these badges into the system. An easy way to do it is by using the actions that people take. So in Girl Up, we're going to look at who's participating actively and start rewarding them for what they do on the Small World Labs platform. But we can also pull information in from other platforms like team fundraising pages or advocacy pages like this example you see up here. And whenever they take an action on that platform page through what's called an API call, Small World Labs recognizes that that constituent took that action on an advocacy page over here, and then it recognizes them in the community, calls it out in an activity stream, things of that nature that drive more engagement with the rest of the folks. And then finally, there's some aspects of how we onboard folks, particularly when they're going to participate in an event or they're going to volunteer for something, that can be automated so that people can basically step through a series of actions that we want them to go through that are part of our commitment curve / engagement pyramid, whatever we call this strategy to get them to become more deeply involved. But the interesting thing about this is that the platform is intelligent enough and it'll remember what they've done and it'll prompt them to keep going. So there's ways to improve the acquisition of the new member. And then on top of that, there's some automation that we're going to add into their platform that revolves around potentially helping some things happen automatically. So when somebody joins a group, a series of messages are sent, both to the director and the new member. They're auto-friended, they get a badge on their profile, and all these things are set up ahead of time so that when the first action occurs, there's a cascade of actions that replicate an existing business process. So we'll work with the Girl Up team to tease out the business logic of how we can do these types of things. The main aim is to save them time. The second is to automate some of the engagement touch points. And the third is just to kind of make it easier for people to understand what we're asking of them and then put them through those workflows that are easy to understand. And with that, we'll wrap it up for some questions, and I'll turn it over to Jeremy for a special announcement.
Yeah. So, Ryan said we're going to open the call to questions. We've already had quite a few come in, but if you have a question, just type there into the question box, and we'll add it here to the queue. We're going to compile a list here, but first, I'm going to call your attention to a couple upcoming events. Marianne, there it is. Okay. The first is called School Cycle, and it's a pretty awesome initiative hosted by Girl Up. Rachel, Julie, do you want to elaborate a little more on this?
Absolutely. So we're very excited to announce that our next upcoming fundraising initiative is School Cycle. We'll be launching it on Giving Tuesday, which is December 2nd. And this is an initiative to fundraise 550 bicycles for girls in Malawi. What we found is that oftentimes girls are targeted on their way to and from school. They have to travel long distances. They're very isolated and vulnerable in that particular country. And so as a result, either they drop out of school or they experience perhaps physical or sexual violence. So what we want to do is give them bicycles. Not only is it empowering, it gets them to school, to and from school quicker and safer. And so we're really, really looking forward to this. And we're going to be using TeamRaiser, which was briefly mentioned before, as our main fundraising platform. We really want girls to sign up to fundraise for School Cycle. Each bicycle, along with replacement parts and training and transportation, costs $125. So we're looking and we're saying if you can find 5 people to donate $25 a piece, you have purchased a bicycle for a girl. So that we're very excited to have something tangible that people can purchase going into the holiday season for girls.
Yeah, so that's kicking off Giving Tuesday. We're in our 3rd year of Giving Tuesday following Black Friday and Cyber Monday. And like Rachel said, very excited that we'll be promoting it on TeamRaiser and through an online platform, as well as with our clubs and supporters, promoting spin classes and other offline actions that they can do all along the theme of school cycle. So more to come on that, and we'll have more information on our website soon.
Okay, great. So the next event, just to call your attention to, is the ASA Technology Conference. This is going to be in Washington, D.C. in mid-December. Small Labs is going to be heading there, and if you're going to be at the conference, please swing by and say hi to us there at the exhibit hall. Additionally, we'll be in town for the whole week of the 15th, so feel free to reach out if you'd like to swing by for an in-person visit. And then finally, if you'd like to hear more about the platform that powers Girl Up's online community, you can certainly reach out to me at the contact information shown here, and I'd be happy to set up a live demo. So with that, I'll go ahead and jump into the
to questions. Our first question comes from Christina. It is, what action do you take if a club seems to go dormant and has no activity for a while?
That's a great question, Christina. What I tend to do is I will shoot them a personal email. I try to do personal messages through the platform first. I think whenever you can keep communication in the community, that is helpful in driving them back towards the community. But if I see that they haven't, I'll email them directly. I'll CC their advisor and CC any and all club members that are a part of their club that we have contact information for. It's amazing what you can do when you have a little peer pressure involved, and girls have to be accountable. And then I'll wait for a response, and if I don't hear anything, I'll go ahead and check general email open rates. Sometimes we incentivize. We try to do physical packages for various initiatives. So we won't be doing it with School Cycle, but in the past for International Day of the Girl, we would send every club who has registered with us some stickers, some flyers, something to keep them excited and keep them going. Little things in the mail can definitely boost club morale and bring them back. And we're happy to report that some clubs that registered with us 2 years ago that went incommunicado have since re-registered on the website. And this is the first time they're really participating online as well. So we're happy to have some place that people know to come back to if they do kind of fall off for a while.
Yeah, one other exciting tactic to highlight, and more so for maintaining and keeping current clubs engaged, is we will have our 20 teen advisors phone bank, if you will. And during registration, it's optional for our supporters, our club leaders, to provide their cell phone information. And we've had our teen advisors just call and check in and see how it's going in the middle of the semester. And both our teen advisors are very empowered by that experience, because oftentimes it's incredibly positive and receptive. Club leaders are just shocked to hear directly from someone from Girl Up. So that's been another great way to hopefully catch them before they fall off and we don't hear from them at all.
And Julie, Rachel, this is Mariano. I'll add my 2 cents to that. There are some things that we can do on the technology side that we're certainly going to suggest and introduce in our next scope of work. But one of the things that we tend to do with groups in particular is we're rolling out some additional functionality that's going to allow like group digest to go out to club members, and we can selectively change the frequency of how they get those sort of summary reports of the activity in the group. So that might spur them to come back in if they're getting periodic updates in an easily digestible format. So those are things that we can potentially start doing additionally. Okay, great. So our next question comes from Suzanne, and this may be along the same lines, but what have you found to be the best ways to incentivize the girls who report their activities?
Incentivize girls to report the activities, is that what you said?
Yeah, report their activities.
Yeah, we do think that the point system that we've created is very, very helpful. And it obviously comes down to finding the right incentives to go along with the points. There are small gestures like featuring girls on Facebook and Twitter that don't cost us anything but mean a ton to them in terms of gaining credibility at their school and in their community, feeling like they're really standout leaders within Girl Up that we'd be willing to profile them. We've also found that very simple things, such as like having Julie and I come out to speak with the club, hosting a Girl Up presentation and party that involves Girl Up staff members or Girl Up teen advisors or regional leaders. Again, having that credible person in the room is tremendous towards them wanting to report back. And we take a kind of hard and fast approach too. We'll have girls send Facebook messages to us or text messages telling us what they're up to, which is great. We're happy to hear it, but it needs to come down to a physical form that we can then, create into a spreadsheet rather than pulling extraneous text messages. So we always direct them back to the community, even if they've already shared that information. We indicate that unless they've reported it in the community, they're not going to get those points, and without those points, they're not going to be able to get, T-shirts or tote bags or whatever it may be for their club at the end of the year.
Absolutely. So just, I think, a few things to add there. We also, we typically do toolkits for every different challenge and event like International Day of the Girl that's coming up. So now it's just habit that when we're doing, 1, 2, 3 steps for what to do, it's always the last step is report back. We need to hear back from you. So it's also now very much ingrained into our messaging. And something that we've learned from our implementation and execution in the community writ large is loving your early adopters and really appreciating them for what they're doing. And of course swag is great sometimes, but also just that personal appreciation. So at the end of last school year, clubs that had submitted a few reports, because we just begun implementing it online at the end of, or during last school year, we wrote personal handwritten just thank you cards to them. Thanks for your leadership. Thanks for stepping up and submitting these reports. It's really important to us. So it's really that merging of the online and offline tactics and kind of back to some basics with both relationship building and with organizing as well.
Okay, perfect. Looks like we're almost at the top of the hour. Julie, Rachel, are you all okay? Just continue on for just a little bit and answer some more questions?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So our next question comes from Kim. Can we see the homepage of the Girl Up, or the homepage of the Girl Up page with the leaderboards and team leader section again?
Yeah.
Yes, we can. We can show that. We'll bring that up for you there, Kim. And then also, another question, are the regional leaders volunteers or staff members?
Yeah, great question. All volunteers. We are a small team, the Girl Up campaign, about 8 or 9 of us based in DC, and Rachel and I are the only grassroots staff, so it was really important to us to identify these high-impact volunteers. And we didn't quite get into all of the nuance with the layers. We have both regional, which are the 5 big regions Rachel mentioned, and then we also have coalition leaders. So you'll see like Celia there, she's for the greater Chicago area. So we have both a Midwest regional leader, but also a Chicago coalition leader as well. So our coalition leaders tend to be current or former teen advisors, and currently our regional leaders, and we've just begun implementing this and working with our volunteers, but they are all college students who have now been with us for a number of years and formerly served as teen advisors. So very much people with incredibly strong connections to the campaign who Rachel and I have known personally for years and who we know we can count on.
And Julie, I don't think has brought this up yet, but Girl Up loves titles. We're lucky and fortunate that our demographic and our base of supporters are looking for jobs, they're looking for internships, they are building their resumes. So having this title on their resume is incredibly valuable and important to them. And knowing that they can reach out to Julie and I for any sort of letter of recommendation, you can imagine what fall is like for college recommendations in us. So again, we love giving out titles. We love making girls feel like they count and they matter. And whatever we can do to support them, whether it's signing off on service hours or promoting them and making sure that they are connected to high-level adult supporters in their area, we try to do that.
Yeah, and they are volunteers, but again, they're the first to also reap the benefits, whether that's we've invited regional leaders to speak with us at conferences and have provided their travel to go to that. They along with our teen advisors are the first girl youth representatives that we ask to join us on our learning trips when we go see the impact of our in-country program. So they're certainly also getting very substantial benefits in return for their volunteer commitment.
Okay, perfect. Let's go with maybe one more question. Just talk to, I guess, the implementation process, but how long did it take to get up and running for you guys, specifically from like, when the date was signed till the launch for Remember Your Action?
Yeah. I was fortunate to be here from some of those beginning conversations. It took, and Mariana, you might remember better than I, but it took a few months to initially work out the project and to build everything, write the content for the different pages, decide what functionality we wanted to begin with. We started with less functionality than we're using right now, things like polls and the leaderboards that you've heard us talk about, we didn't initially have. We kind of would almost seem counterintuitive, but we formally publicly launched the community actually at the very end of our first school year implementing the club program. It launched publicly June of 2012, but then that allowed us over the summer to really invite our most active club members and our teen advisors to begin using it over the summer, which is typically a downtime, so that we could better understand it, understand how to provide the customer service, love those early adopters over the summertime, and then be ready for when we first push it out in a big way in the, that would have been then in the fall of 2012 for the 2012-2013 school year. And then about a year into the community, understanding it better, understanding our needs, that's when we decided to do that second project to optimize it, and that's what you see today. So we've done that second project, and then Mariana mentioned we're working on a third project to optimize it as well. So so far it's been about every year we've looked at how we could revamp it a little bit and make it tailored to fit more of our needs.
And I'll just complement that by saying that the standard implementation time is about 90 to 120 days. In the case of Girl Up, I mean, they did something really smart, which was basically piloted through the summer, so there was a beta testing period. Every organization is different. They had to demonstrate sustainability and ROI, so they did. Then they went through another phase of improvements, and now we're going to go through a sort of the ultimate tweaking scope of work. But you know, some clients take the initial time to do a deeper dive with us, and we can sort of set up the community as it'll exist for several years, and we have some examples of that. Others go through phases. So I would characterize Girl Up as a phased implementation approach.
Okay, thanks, Mariana. And it looks like we have, quite a few number of questions remaining. They continue to come in. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be able to get to them today. I'd like to be respectful of time. But if that's the case, we'll certainly follow up with you after the call and make sure your questions get answered. So with that said, go ahead and want to thank everyone for joining us today. Hopefully we found the call to be valuable and informative, and also thanking our presenters, both Julie and Rachel, as well as Mariano. As I said earlier, I'm going to send out the link to the replay and the slides soon, probably this afternoon, maybe tomorrow morning. So feel free to send this to your colleagues, and as I said earlier, don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have any questions about the content or anything else. But that being said, that concludes today's webinar, and have a great afternoon.